Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Boom Broadcasting presents Three from Deep. I'm your host, Jason Colenso. Welcome to the show. Happy Monday, y'all. Coming out of the weekend. We got the second half of the NBA season in full effect right now. Let's go. It's going to be an exciting end racing up to the playoffs right now. So we're going to deep dive into a few things today. We're going to discuss Popover. Is Gregg Popovich, is this the end? He's out for the rest of the season, so we're going to talk about that for a little bit here. Luka Laker coming off a big win over the weekend against the Nuggets. Good performance from him. Does this change some things in LA? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then my New York Knicks. We're doing great, third in the East, but we can't beat the number one or the number two team in the East. Is that going to haunt the New York Knicks during the playoffs? And guys, I say we because I am very excited to have a special guest on today. I got my man who has mentored me in this. Let's bring him on right now. We have Mr. Michael Davis. Where you at, buddy? There you are. Yes, I got the Boom Broadcasting Prez here with me today. I am very excited to have you. How are you doing, Mr. Michael Davis?
Dude, it is awesome. You have done a phenomenal job. I remember when you approached me about, hey, does Boom have an NBA podcast? I'd love to do it because I knew you did the Fantasy Football Sideline Savants with Wayne. And I was like, actually, I was starting to think about it. I'm like, we don't have an NBA podcast. And I started mulling it over, and it took all about 3 minutes to realize, yeah, Jason's the guy for this, and you have taken it and ran with it. I was very jealous of Cody from Drew Code Sports Talk that he got to be your first guest on Three from Deep, but I've been wanting to do that. I'm excited. I finally get to come on here with you. It's been a long time coming, but dude, you're doing great now 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays at noon, holding that time slot down. So, especially over the last couple of weeks where I haven't been able to do a lot of content. You've been a really, really big, steady hand when it comes to the channel. And, dude, I appreciate you, and I'm excited for some basketball.
I am too, man. And look at Mr. Davis. I am excited, and I am honored that you entrusted me to come on to Boom Broadcasting and to represent your channel and to represent you guys. So, I thank you very much. I thank you for the opportunity. I love being on here, Three from Deep. I love being on the Boom Broadcasting Network. Guys, if you're not subscribed to Boom Broadcasting, get on. We have a lot of amazing content creators. Jump on here. We're doing that strive for 5. We want to have that strive for 500 and beyond. So let's go. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Just shout it out the window. Let's get some people on here because we have some amazing creators. And again, I thank you, Mr. Davis. So I'm excited about the NBA right now. There is a lot going on in the NBA. We have just come out of the All-Star break. Now we're hitting our stride, getting into the second half of the season. Teams starting to make those moves, trying to get into the playoffs. But one of the things I want to touch on first, the news coming out of San Antonio. It was bad enough that the Spurs were hit losing Wemby, the Parisian Pillar. I'm still trying to get that nickname out there for the year with that blood clot in his shoulder. I wish him the best. He's a global brand, and I think that's one of the things the NBA really was banking on him being a superstar. They already played in Paris with him, so trying to get that global brand out there. So that hurt. And then they were hit again with Gregg Popovich will not return this year. Just getting better or trying to get better from that stroke he had earlier in the year. And you start thinking, is this the end of Mr. Gregg Popovich in San Antonio? He has been a staple there since 1994, 5-time NBA champion, won a gold medal in Tokyo, won a bronze in Athens. Mr. Michael Davis, where would you place Gregg Popovich in amongst the great coaches of the NBA?
You got to put him up there. I mean, you have to put him at least top 5. I mean, a 5-time NBA champion will say enough. Obviously, you got to put Phil Jackson there, but Phil Jackson had either Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Gregg Popovich had Tim Duncan,
Yeah.
but we have seen a lot of great, fours in the NBA just not have that much success, like Dirk Nowitzki or Kevin Garnett, both NBA champions in their own right, but not to the level of Tim Duncan. And I think a lot of that was due to Gregg Popovich and making this Spurs organization relevant. Dude, as much as I don't always agree with Gregg Popovich, as much as I disdain one of those NBA championships coming at the expense of my Miami Heat, you can't doubt Gregg Popovich. Now, it's not like the Spurs right now are, missing much. They are missing much, but he has been out since like mid-November. So we have seen this organization, but it's pretty much like, hey, we've shut Wemby down for the season. We're also shutting down Gregg Popovich, and they're mailing it in. So I don't know what message this sends to the locker room. I don't know what message this sends to De'Aaron Fox, who they just traded for, and all this excitement just 2 weeks ago. And now all of a sudden it's like Wemby shut down, Popovich shut down. All right, De'Aaron Fox, now you have less to play around with. You have a veteran in Chris Paul. This team, after they made the De'Aaron Fox move, I thought they were going to be, a sleeper play-in team, maybe even get all the way up to 6th seed. But now it's like very obvious, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to get somebody in the NBA draft to help us for the future if Victor Wembanyama is healthy. But if Gregg Popovich can come back, I don't see him coaching longer than about 3 seasons.
Right. And he is 76 years old. Look, Gregg Popovich has kind of nothing else to prove in the NBA. He is already the NBA record holder for wins, has 1,407 wins. So, I mean, again, 5-time champion. How much do you have to prove? And I put him up there too with the greats. I think he is, to me, top 3. I have him actually first ahead of Pat Riley and Phil Jackson, then Red Auerbach, and then Larry Brown. That was my top 5 there. Just because of the championships, just because of the small market team. To take San Antonio, which is a small town in Texas, you're not LA, you're not New York, you're not Boston, to take that and to take Tim Duncan, a relatively unknown player, and turn him into one of the greatest players of all time. You had the Admiral. You also drafted Manu Ginobili, Parker. I mean, so he took guys that no one really thought he could do anything with and turned it into champions. So if this is it for Gregg Popovich, he will be missed. And I had San Antonio as one of my sleepers too. That's not going to happen this year. So I hope Wemby can come back healthy next year, and maybe they can get somebody in the draft. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Spurs do at coach moving forward, because it's going to be hard to replace the legend that is Mr. Gregg Popovich. So I appreciate that. And then the big news coming out of the weekend, Luka Laker. And I haven't gotten kind of your excitement yet, or your feedback yet on this Luka trade that kind of shocked the NBA nation right now. But the Lakers played the Nuggets, snapped that 9-game winning streak from the Nuggets, 123-100. Luka drops 32, 7 assists, 10 rebounds, a phenomenal stat line, coming back, kind of getting his legs. LeBron had 25, Hachimura had 21, Reeves had 23. Joker had a triple-double, but only 12 points. That defense kind of held him down. Mr. Davis, does this kind of performance, do you think seeing Luka perform this way is going to keep LeBron James in LA next year, maybe a couple of more years?
Wow. As opposed to going somewhere else or retiring?
Either one.
So I just have a feeling that LeBron's career ends in LA. Everybody likes to throw out, oh, this, oh, that. No, LeBron went to LA to build his brand, and they drafted his son. I mean, what more could you want? Again, LeBron's never always been satisfied, but I feel like if he jumped again, he would have to win a title somewhere else to keep his legacy intact. He can't just go ahead and be like, oh, I'm going back to Cleveland. Oh, I'm going back to Miami. He would have to win a title wherever he went. So LeBron at his age, at his stage, being the league's all-time leading scorer, he is staying put in LA. But Luka, that trade for Luka, who, we were talking about his stats, 32 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals. I mean, even LeBron getting 25, 9, and 5, and 3 blocks. I mean, it's pretty clear the Lakers, when they trade away Anthony Davis, one of LeBron's guys, they said, Luka's our future. Luka's our guy. LeBron, thank you so much, but Luka is going to take us to the next 10 years if he resigns. So I feel like LeBron ends his career in Los Angeles. Now, whether he comes back next year or the year after, who knows? Because all he wanted to do was play with his son, and now he's gotten it. So why would you come back? Now, if he's looking at this team and Luka's on fire, Austin Reeves is starting to emerge as a really good third option. You mentioned Rui Hachimura. If LeBron feels like they are a piece or two away with JJ Redick now as the head coach, then he probably stays one more year to compete. But it all depends on what this Lakers team does in the playoffs. Do they get to the conference finals? I mean, right now, they've won 8 of their last 10. They're the 4th seed in the West. They just beat the 3 seed Denver Nuggets, and then Memphis isn't far ahead. So the Lakers potentially could move up to be a 2 seed in the Western Conference by playoff time, edging out the Grizzlies, edging out the Nuggets. And that could incentivize LeBron, like, hey, if I want, and he should, by the way, if I want to chase another championship, which, if I'm not mistaken, would bring it to 5. If he can take the 5 championships that would match Kobe, next year might be his best opportunity to do so.
And that was one of the big concerns I had with this team, was being able to play up against a team like the Nuggets, who have size down low. And that's one of the question marks on this Lakers team, is that center position. Moving into the rest of this year, yes, I think they have a chance. I think they have a puncher's chance when you have a healthy Luka and a healthy LeBron, but it's going to be terrible to try to get out of the West. That is a gauntlet. But I want to kind of think a little bit into next year too, with this Luka trade, and it making that huge of an impact in the NBA and had everybody talking from just about every team. Does this make LA an even bigger free agent destination? I mean, I know LA, big market, they've always been a free agent destination, but are guys going to want to come play with Luka now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we saw that in Dallas. I mean, Klay Thompson deciding to leave a Warriors dynasty to come to Dallas and play with Luka Doncic. Kyrie Irving could not be satisfied anywhere else he would have went. And guess what? He found a home in Dallas. And he mentioned that bond with Luka is what helped get him to that point where he was satisfied and content and actually thriving in Dallas. So LeBron, yeah, you don't want to go when LeBron's late in his career and, sign a big money deal there and be like, well, I could either be here when LeBron leaves and there's nothing else, because every time LeBron's left a team, they go a couple years into purgatory at least.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, LeBron, like, who knows? You don't jive with LeBron, he might want to trade you. So now that it looks like Luka is the guy in the future, I would not be surprised if players wanted to go And who knows, maybe when Kyrie's contract ends, he looks at LA and joining Luka Doncic.
That'd be very, very interesting. And this late Luka trade, I think, is going to echo not only for the rest of the year but going into next year. Because if you look at him and you see him dropping this many points, some of the discussions that the reasons why the Dallas Mavericks wanted to trade him being fat Luka, him being out of shape, not committed. Do you think any of that is going to follow him in LA? Do you think he's going to have to really shed a lot of that? Or do you think that was more of just Dallas being bitter and just getting rid of him?
Dude, I don't know. This is the weirdest trade in the world. And I reacted a little bit on an Al Pocket episode a couple weeks ago. But man, Dallas, the only way Nico survives the next 2-3 years is if this team wins a championship with Anthony Davis. That is the only way, and sooner the better. But it looks like what the Dallas Mavericks are facing is they just made the Lakers look a lot better. And Dallas, if they had to match up against LA, let me throw a scenario out there. Dallas current play-in team. LA could potentially move up to the 2 seed. If we get a LA Dallas first round matchup and LA wins with Luka going off for 35, 40 points a game, Nico's gone. Like that would be like the tipping point. Fans would riot. It would get ugly. Need security detail, he would need at least 3 or 4 more.
Yes.
That's just how serious a potential first round matchup just got. You need immediate success because the move you made wasn't for long term. It was for immediate success. And so you have to have that.
Right. And I don't think that's going to happen because with Anthony Davis being hurt all the time, I don't understand this move. And we're going to see, because right now you have this Tuesday coming up in LA. You're going to have the Lakers versus the Mavericks. And I think Mavericks fans, they've already been protesting. They've already shown their disdain for this move. I think it's only going to get worse. And if they do match up in the playoffs at some point in time, what an epic storyline to have. And you talk about just everybody losing their minds on ESPN and TNT. All these guys are going to go bananas because you just talk about storylines and flame and fanning the fire of this trade. It's going to be Dallas. They may end up burning that stadium down. It's just going to be that bad because I can't see Anthony Davis coming back and being that dominant, unfortunately, because he's got a guy you can't really count on, and he's kind of been like that throughout his career. He has your monster game. He'll pad the stats. He has 32, 20 rebounds, and then the next game he goes down with somebody just looking at him, like you can't even touch him. That's why I joke and I call him Mr. Glass, because it's like you just look at him and he shatters. So boom. Unfortunately, I think this is just LA is going to reap the benefits of this because Luka Doncic is at 25 years old. He is that guy. He is that kind of player. Now you put a chip on his shoulder because it's bad enough you traded him, but you're going to insult him and question his work ethic on the way out. So now you've just put the biggest chip on his shoulder. He's going into a building to where Kobe Bryant's, both his numbers are hanging in the rafters, and Luka loved some Kobe Bryant. So now you've got that Mamba mentality dripping down on him with the weight of, all right, you're going to slap me. You're going to tell me I'm fat Luka and that I'm not dedicated. I didn't drag your team to the NBA finals the other year, and you're going to do me like that on the way out. So Dallas is in for a storm, and I hope they don't play them in the playoffs because Dallas, the franchise, will not be able to survive that at all.
Mm-mm.
Crazy.
No.
Mike, we're going to take a time out here real quick. One of the things I love to do on my show, and I'm glad I have you on here because I know how much you love wrestling, how passionate you are about it. You've talked about it. You have your own show. You talk about it a lot of time. We got on Boom Broadcasting. We have Drop the Mic. We have Sean Lucas with the Wrestling of Destiny. We got Mouthing Off with Mike has the Nightcap. So Boom Broadcasting, Michael Davis. We love wrestling. I am excited, and your passion kind of bleeds over to me. So I like to do my little top 5 here on my show. So I am over the moon that I have you on here and I get to do this with you. So I'm going to hit you up with a hard one here because as much as you love wrestling, I want to know your top 5 wrestlers of all time. And I know that's probably going to be a little difficult for you. As much as you love it, you probably have your favorites, but I want you to give me, I'm going to have you go first. I'm going to have your top 5 wrestlers of all time. Let's hear what you got.
So this is a top 5. This isn't particularly my favorite 5. This is like, in terms of just objectively speaking, this is
top 5.
The top 5. Okay. I feel like every time I get asked this question, I think Cody asked me this one time, I give a different answer because, I mean, when you talk about the industry right now, it is just incredible. I feel like the guys who are just, they're there, whether you want them to be or not, are The Undertaker, one of the longest, like, tenured wrestlers, one of the most historic feats in WrestleMania. And if you're not a wrestling fan and you're sitting here being like, oh, it's scripted or whatnot, who cares about the championships? Who cares about the wins? What is impressive, and this is indisputable, The Undertaker being 21-0 at WrestleMania.
Wow.
Now, what that entails is WrestleMania is an annual event. So, one, you have to be an active competitor for 21 straight years. You also have to be a good enough draw to where they want to put you on WrestleMania for that amount of years. They didn't even know, and this was like 10 years in, they didn't even know there was a streak happening. And Undertaker was just over enough, and The Undertaker was just good and consistent enough where he was getting booked on WrestleMania every year, and he was winning based on the story that was being told at the time. And the fact that he was a locker room leader, just the amount of memorable stories with, an undead, like burned in the fire stepbrother who like comes in, and you have to like fight him at one of those WrestleManias, 2 of them actually, and win, to all the historic, what's called 5-star matches now.
Right.
They were just the way he was able to work, the way he was able to be a locker room leader behind the scenes. The Undertaker is very undisputed, is in that top 5. Another one undisputed is Shawn Michaels. This guy like inspired an entire generation of wrestlers, and people will tell you like, hey, what made you want to be a pro wrestler? Shawn Michaels. Because he was a smaller guy. He had the charisma. He had the look, and he just outworked everybody. He could work with anybody. He could, put on a memorable moment. His character work was great. There was also the, before Jesus and the after Jesus, Shawn Michaels. And so if you remember the before, he might have been more entertaining, but after was just as good. So it's like, it's the Kobe Bryant 8 and 24. It's the Shawn Michaels in 2 different eras. Those are the 2 that are undisputed. And then you can start filling them out. For me, I put Ric Flair there. 16-time world champion. Not only did it in WWE, did it in NWA, sold out Starcades, Flair for the Gold, memorable programs with Dusty Rhodes, Harley Race, Ricky Steamboat, had one of the coolest factions of all time, the Four Horsemen.
Yep.
Really, there were no big groups up until the Four Horsemen. And then for the next 30, 40 years, everybody's tried to duplicate it. I mean, you just, hey, what kind of guys can we get together, get this cool vibe in today's generation? That was the original Four Horsemen. And that's what it was. And that was built on Ric Flair. But to last as long in the ring as he did, even wrestling through like 2008, retiring against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. He did wrestle some in TNA, and he wrestled a little bit in the indie scene a little bit, but that was his main career. NWA, WWF, back to WCW, and then WWE. He's in that top 5. And then you can start figuring out where the other two go. I want to put Stone Cold there. I really do.
Wow.
I really want to put Stone Cold there. I mean, it's always between Stone Cold and The Rock for me, but Stone Cold, in the amount of tickets he sold in the Attitude Era, didn't have a long career. And so that is the reason that I'm like hesitant, but you can't deny he basically helped keep Vince McMahon, WWE in business. Because without him, they're not in business. So I would put Stone Cold there. And I only do Stone Cold over The Rock because The Rock did leave for Hollywood. Stone Cold was more of a health issue as to why his career ended so soon. So there's my 4. And then my 5th one, you could go with a lot of people. You could go with a Randy Orton. You could go with a John Cena. You could give that to The Rock, so on and so forth. But how can you not give it to our tribal chief, the head of the table? I will acknowledge Roman Reigns.
Wow. Number
has
1?
Reached that top 5. Roman Reigns. And if I had to rank them, like maybe I put Undertaker 1, Shawn Michaels 2, Roman at 3, Ric Flair at 4, Stone Cold at 5. But Roman completely changed his character. He was in one of the more dominating factions of all time in the Shield. Went on a singles run. He tried to be a good guy, babyface, next John Cena kind of dude. But when COVID hit and he came back as the head of the table, the tribal chief, changed the industry. There has not been a modern champion to hold a title 1,000 consecutive days and counting. 1,316 days. And in this microwave popcorn kind of generation we're living in, to hold the title that long and to keep people interested and on the edge of their seats for that long. And not only that, but how many people he brought up with him. Usually when a guy goes and he goes on this main event run, it's all about him. Roman Reigns prolonged the career of Paul Heyman, who needed something after Brock Lesnar. He made his cousin, main event Jey Uso, into a singles competitor who just won the Royal Rumble and is main event in his own WrestleMania this year. I mean, and you start looking at the list, like he made Cody Rhodes a bigger star because Cody lost to him at WrestleMania 39, came back the next year, won at WrestleMania 40. He made Sami Zayn relevant. I mean, Solo Sikoa, another cousin who would then create his own bloodline and bring in Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. I mean, when Roman Reigns sat down, he said he was doing this for his family.
Right.
It made sense because he really did. And he did it in a time where WWE had COVID, went through the change of Vince McMahon to Triple H, and needed something to hold it together. And Roman Reigns was the constant because I am just amazed at wrestling being cool again. And a big part of that is Roman Reigns.
That's very impressive. And that's why I'm glad I asked you that question, because that's the kind of answer I was expecting, because that was surprising too, because from as someone who is not a huge wrestling fan, I mean, I've looked at the outside looking in a little bit. I'll give you my list because my list is a little more old school. I can remember back when I was younger, watching wrestling with my cousin. We used to play with the little rubber, wrestling figures and have our own matches. But this was back in the early 80s. and early 90s. So I go back a little bit. So my list is not as impressive as yours. So I'm going to just throw it out there. So please excuse my ignorance a little bit, but this is kind of the layman throwing his 2 cents in here. So please don't hold this against me. But my number 5 was Bret the Hitman Hart. Talk about somebody, showmanship, spanning different generations. I think he just made an impact on wrestling as a whole. My number 4 was Ric Flair. Woo! Again, you talk about a iconic talent that's, just throughout 30 plus years, 40 years of his career, was somebody who just created a personality that everybody knows now. Even, again, regular people like myself who are not big into the wrestling kind of know, and I've met him before in the Charlotte airport. It's somebody everybody kind of knows. My number 3 was Sting. I was a huge fan of him when I was younger. Just the longevity of his career, spanning different companies, and just the WWE, WWF when it was WWF. Oh, you got your top 5 right there. I like it. My number 2, which was always fun to me, was the Ultimate Warrior. I love me some Ultimate Warrior when I was younger. You talk about the excitement, running into the ring, the wrestling personality, kind of that old school, in your face, loud, very exciting with the paint, kind of had that Kiss thing going on. To me, I as a young kid watching him, whenever that music came on and he started running for that ring, you were just instantly excited. And my number 1 was Hulk Hogan. So you talk about wrestling coming out of the dark ages from kind of the 70s into the 80s, and then being put on the map. So like when Hulkamania showed up, all of a sudden it changed. It became a little more mainstream. People were watching for. Then they had WrestleMania. So one of the biggest iconic moments was, Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. So I kind of look at it as, you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And you talk about some of the things that really pushed wrestling into the lexicon of our sports world. To me, Hulk Hogan was the one that did it, because there was weird wrestlers before him with the Claw and some of these other guys, and then all of a sudden Hulk Hogan's personality, bigger than life, and then WrestleMania came around and started with Andre the Giant and those battles of the Iron Sheik. So those kind of things, as a younger kid when I watched it, drew me to the TV and kept me interested in it. And that was my list. It's not as in depth, I think, as yours, but I kind of like visiting the past a little bit. I like to reminisce, but to me, those are the guys that paved the way where wrestling is today. Because I think without some of those iconic moments, you don't have a Roman Reigns. You don't have some of those guys you see today. And I don't know if you can agree with that or not.
Oh yeah, and like seeing like Sting. I mean, I got to be at his retirement match in Greensboro. That's where I met Wayne. Like full circle right here. Full circle right here.
I love it.
I love that, because Wayne obviously introduced Jason, and then Jason now has 3 from Deep 3 times a week. But no, it was good. Probably not, the best human Hulk Hogan is, from what we've learned, but you can't like dispute what he's done for the business.
And I tried, and that's so hard in what we do and loving sports the way we do in all sports. Sometimes you have to separate the human being from the persona you see on TV. I'm a huge Lawrence Taylor fan. I think he's the greatest football to ever lived. Off the field, questionable. Some of the things that he did and the way he lived, but so that makes it hard. And and it's something that, you try to, I have a young son, so I try to teach him, when you watch these guys on TV, yes, you can idolize them to a point, but you got to watch it, because what you're seeing on TV sometimes is a persona. What they act like as a human being outside the ring is a little tough. Hulk Hogan's one of those cautionary tales, because he did so much for the sport and his persona was iconic, but off the ring, out of the ring, some questionable things. So unfortunately, he's not the only one, and there's a lot more like that. But I appreciate you sharing with me, man. That's why I'm glad I have you on here, because that was a great list, and I am so glad I finally got to do a top 5 with you, and I hope to do it again with you here soon. So thank you so much for doing that with me here. So coming out of the timeout, last thing I want to talk about here is my New York Knicks. Right now, New York Knicks sitting in third behind Cavs number 1, Celtics number 2. So Knicks sitting in third place in that East. Can't get over the hump. Right now, after the loss on Sunday to the Celtics, 118-105, they are now 0-5 against the top teams of the East, which is the Cavs and the Celtics. As a Knicks fan, this scares me a little bit. And Michael Davis, do you think being 0-5 against those top teams haunts them during the playoffs? Do you see that really becoming something of a ceiling, that the Knicks, if they can't beat these guys in the regular season, what are they going to do against the playoffs? What are your thoughts on that?
Now, when you think about, let me throw an NFL comparison out there. The Kansas City Chiefs have Buffalo's number in the postseason. But what you can't dispute is in the regular season, Buffalo can win. I mean, they gave Kansas City their only real loss in the regular season. I mean,
right.
Chiefs set their starters the following week and everything, but the only team to really beat Kansas City when they were going hard in the season were the Bills.
Right.
That gives the Bills at least hope that they can do it. Fell short in the postseason, of course. But if you're a team like the Knicks, who haven't proven they can win a championship, haven't proven they can go on a deep run in the playoffs, and you're playing the Cavaliers, who have been the best team in the NBA all year, really not even close. And then you have Boston, who won the championship last year, and you're playing these teams. You need at least a win. You need one win that you're okay, we know we can hang with the best of them. But until then, you're just you're on the level right below them, but you can't break through that glass ceiling. I feel like that's where the Knicks are. And especially with them making moves like DiVincenzo's gone, Randall's gone, and then you bring in Karl-Anthony Towns to play the 5 because Mitchell Robinson's out. You're really trying to sink your teeth into what this Knicks team is and what it can be. But let's be honest, Jalen Brunson is the guy who runs this. And if you look at the Cavaliers and what they're doing right now, but you also look at the Celtics and you're just put Drew Holiday on Jalen Brunson and Derek White on Jalen Brunson. He'll cause trouble, and they'll cause trouble for the rest of the Knicks. Very alarming, because I think the Knicks could beat the Pacers. I think the Knicks could go toe-to-toe with Milwaukee. Everybody else, I don't see a problem with the Knicks, but I mean, it's pretty much a done deal. Cleveland will be 1, Boston will be 2, New York will be 3. That's how I see this going.
Right.
You're going to have to go on the road to Boston and try to beat them before the conference finals. Can they do it? They haven't proved to me once they can beat them in a regular season game. So why would I trust them to win a best-of-7 series? I can't.
And I can't either. And it hurts as a Knicks fan to say that too, because, you come out of Friday night with a blowout loss to the Cavs, 142-105. So it's not even like you're playing up to their level and losing by a point or losing by a last-second shot. The so-called moral victory wins that you can get sometimes. These losses are lopsided. And as a Knicks fan, that does cause me concern, because, look, I got right now, Karl Anthony Towns was a heck of a pickup. I think he was better than Julius Randle. Again, availability-wise, Julius Randle was never there. DiVincenzo hurt. I liked him. His 40% three-point shot, I think, is missed a little bit. But I like the way our team is constructed. I still have Jalen Brunson in my MVP watch. I think he is a phenomenal player in the East. But it is disheartening to see these blowout losses against those top-tier teams, because that's who we're all chasing right now. That's who everybody in the East is chasing. We're chasing the Cavs, chasing the Celtics, who are just playing at that other level. So I just unfortunately see a 4-game sweep. And I don't know, do you have a dark horse coming out of the East? Do you have maybe a Pistons or a Heat bubbling up to be able to kind of compete with that kind of team? Because we've seen some 1 seeds and some 2 seeds lose in early in the playoffs. Do you have an East team that you think that could hang with these guys?
It's tough because I think Cleveland, Boston are, head and shoulders above the rest. New York and Milwaukee are in that next tier. Indiana's kind of like floating around. Detroit, I predicted they would be a playoff team last year, and that was one of my predictions that was just a year late. And Detroit's building something. They have Cade, they have Oscar Thompson, they have Tobias Harris, who's playing a lot better than he did in Philly, by the way. And you know what? I would say Philly, like sneaking in as a play-in team, even though Jared McCain's out, Joel Embiid, you can't rely on. Paul George, can't rely on. I mean, how are you playing Paul George right now? He's listed as a 4, and he's a 2 at best. Right. Miami, I would love to say that. I would love to say, but every time I watch this Heat team now, it's like, it's Tyler Hero's team, but why are we giving minutes to Davion Mitchell and Kyle Anderson when you have guys like Jaime Jaquez and Haywood Highsmith that were a lot better fits that were already on the team? So why are we giving Davion Mitchell, who's been a single-digit scorer his entire career, a starting role over a Hero Robinson duo? Hero Robinson in the starting lineup was good. Robinson, the best three-point shooter in Miami Heat history, and we lose yesterday against Milwaukee. And it's like we also lose big leads. So I don't even think Miami at this point is poised for that. But Orlando? Dude, I mean, whether it's Anthony Black, Cole Anthony, KCP, Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., Jalen Suggs when he's healthy. Dude, I mean, this Orlando team is young and they're fun to watch. They are a lot of fun to watch, and I would not be surprised if Orlando is that 4th team in the semis between Cleveland, Boston, New York. I wouldn't be surprised if Orlando's a 4th.
And I wouldn't be either. And I think Orlando lost a lot of steam when Banchero went down and then Wagner went down. I still think they are a little young. I think they're missing that piece, that veteran leadership. Get these young teams. They're like the Houston Rockets in the West, who fun, young team, I think can make some noise in the playoffs, but I think they're just missing that extra piece. And a lot of times it's that veteran leadership, the muscle memory of winning. To me, I think besides, of course, I'm going to root for my New York Knicks, but I still think the Bucks have the best chance to beat the Cavs or the Celtics. They've been there before. Doc Rivers has been there before. That team was written off in the beginning of the season. They wanted to fire Doc Rivers. They wanted to trade Giannis Antetokounmpo. So they wanted to do, and now they are, 5th in the East, 31-28. They're 31-24. They're close. I think they can jump ahead of the Pacers and start nipping at the Knicks' heels because they still got Dame time. They still got Damian Lillard. You still have Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think if anybody can make a little noise in the playoffs, it's the Bucks, just because they have been there before. But I still got to root for my Knicks. I'm going to do that. I appreciate it, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, you've said it before. In order to be the best, you got to beat the best. So if we can't beat these guys, and we're 0-5 in blowout losses, that definitely is concerning. So we will see what happens. I am excited about the rest of the season, and I am excited that I got to have you finally on my show, man. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate the opportunity you gave me and believing in me, and just trusting me with your baby and your brand here. So I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, Mr. Davis, and let the people know where they can find you, what you got coming up. Just give us a little taste of what you got going on, man.
Hey, you can find me right here. You're on Boom Broadcasting already. If you haven't subscribed, catch other content creators. Jason does a great job, and I could go through the list. I mean, we're piling up, whether it's Chris, Wayne, Sean, Shannon, Mike. I feel like I'll miss a person or two, just because of how much content. Carson, Aaron. We have a really, really good squad right now, and I couldn't do it without all of you guys. So I appreciate that. Things are starting to calm down ish here in this neck of the woods. It's February's been a month, let me tell you. But we'll get some more out pockets. We'll get some drop the mics. Hopefully get some Cowboys content with our Fans First partnership. So we'll get some of this stuff. But yeah, you can catch y'all here, and we're striving for 500. And you can catch 3 from Deep 3 times a week right here.
Yep. I appreciate that, Mr. Davis. Thank you so much for being on here, and we will connect again. So thank you so much, and I will check you later, man.
I'll see you.
All right, buddy. Thank you guys very, very much for joining me on this episode. I appreciate you being here. I will be back Wednesday at 12 p.m. Again, 3 from Deep, 3 times a week. I am Jason Colenza, your host. Check us out in the Boom Broadcasting Network. Please like and subscribe. Jump on here. Again, drop some questions, drop some comments. Don't be afraid to hit me up and let me know what's on your mind here. I'd like to read it on the show here for you. So thank you guys very much for coming, and I will see you Wednesday.